Horror games are terrifying because you have to be the one to make it happen. You can't just close your eyes and let the thing happen without you. And even squinting doesn't work as well because you might just have to redo the section. In this way, video games are like books. Books don't manifest themselves in your head. You have to do the reading to get through. Books and video games are in many ways equal and opposite. They both require different forms of agency and imagination. In a book, you have very little power over the events of the story, but you are actively putting in the work of making all of it real in your head. Video games, on the other hand, realize the imagination of most of the world for you, but you have agency over every minute decision along the way, or a handful of options. And I should say here, I'm mostly talking about narrative books and games, though I think the same applies with more complexities to the whole. Both require work on the part of the audience to be complete, or even to happen. An unread book doesn't have the same detail as a read one, and a game doesn't beat levels on its own. You have to extrapolate into reality. There are exceptions here, of course. Each media is packed with complexities and examples and counterexamples, but they're both quite different from filmed media in this way. And it's this difference that keeps film as the adaptation medium of choice for those seeking validation, even with video games eclipsing film in the industry's size. It feels special to have someone else take the care and effort to realize the things that you previously had to put work into imagining. It's seeing that it's not just your head that was making the world magnificent, and having an easy way to share that with other people. It's a form of actualization more akin to reality. And the backlash about not then seeing it right because interpretation means every brain sees it all differently, and you know that song and game. Yes, movies and TV shows still make you imagine things, so this frame also helps explain part of our distinction between animation and live action when it comes to both prestige and remakes like The Lion King. There's a signal of intent in what you call the animation, of what you're trying to convey. The symbolic versus a form of actual. It's an emulation of the physical. It's trying to convince you of the same things a rock is when you hold it. Everything through nothing. Truth through passivity. And I halt to say passivity, that holds so many connotations and is not exactly what I mean to say, and that's why I start with words like actualization or realization. A rock in your hand doesn't have to do much convincing to your brain that it holds all of the physical properties that it does, because it's done a lot of the legwork for you, what with all of the molecules and chemical interactions and whatnot. So a rock is passive, yes, but that's because it's done a lot of work to have you buy in. A book can recreate in your head. Use your brain as the base medium, the clay to shape into a story, but it's you forming around it rather than it forming to you. The same is true for video games to different effects, but the physicality of controllers adds an interesting wrinkle. So what do we do with this framing? In video games, we talk about verbs a lot. What are the kinds of actions a player is taking? But I think we should add interpretation of the symbolic to that, as an action that helps explain the difference between Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy VII. How do graphics, page composition, props contribute or detract from what we're trying to make, from what effect we're trying to have?